mentioning their name so we can take accurate attendance. I'm going to start recording this meeting. Oh. Okay, sorry about that. My computer stopped working. I had to switch over. So, as I was saying, thank you all for joining. I'm starting to record this meeting. So, if anyone, wants to go back or miss something, I'll have these recordings sent to you. And as Michelle said, that she's going to send me recordings from last year, and you'll get those as well. So, thank you all for joining. So, Michelle Mahalik is the agent in Montgomery County. And so I would like to welcome her for doing this training for all of us in District 9. So if you have any questions, I'll monitor the chat for her and say if there's any questions, and take it away, Michelle.
Oh, so as Brittany said, I'm the County Extension Agent in Montgomery County. I've been the 4-H agent here for 24 years. I grew up in the 4-H program, just so you know why I tend to be the go-to person for record books. I did record books as a kid. My dad was a county extension agent, so I did not know that there was an option not to do one. That's made it somewhat of a struggle as a county agent and trying to figure out how to encourage people and motivate people to complete a record book. With that, I do want to know kind of where to start tonight based on what your experience is. So how many of you have done a record book before? You can type it in the chat, or I don't know if we can raise hands on this.
We have one person that says they have.
And how many of you have never done one before?
Megan says that she does have some new kids on the call. One person said they did one about 20 years ago. We have some others that say they have.
So if you did one 20 years ago, I am here to tell you from personal experience, the content has not changed one bit from when I started 4-H in 1980. So the format and the way they asked questions and the way they have it structured has changed a little, but the foundation of our record book has not fundamentally changed, at least in my experience, since 1980. So we'll go through, I'm going to share my slideshow, if I can remember how to do that. There used to be, there it is. They changed it.
I know. I was learning they changed some stuff.
And then I want to make the screen big again. So those of you that have done one, you have a job to do tonight, and that is to help me help the new ones get it all figured out. So as we go through this, if you have questions, please go ahead and ask those, because your questions are going to help our first timers kind of begin to pull some of all this together. All of you are here tonight. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on why we ought to do one. We do need to have a record keeping skill. Every job that any of us are ever going to have is going to have some sort of record keeping involved with it. If you're going to some sort of school after high school, then there's going to be record keeping involved in that. And there's going to be applications for scholarships for colleges and universities and job applications. So this is going to help you fill all this out. We want you to tell us what you've done, what you've learned, how you've grown this year. You're going to demonstrate the importance of keeping a written document of what has been done. Our record books provide a written platform for goal setting and documentation of the actions required to reach the goals, and it's an opportunity to compete. To me, this is a really important function. We get the opportunity on an annual basis to submit our records for evaluation compared to our peers. All of those that are going to be competing with us again in scholarships down the road or jobs down the road, we kind of get to see on an annual basis how we compare to those people and what we can do to improve our written records and increase our skills. So at least we'll know where we stand related to our peers, if I go the right direction. So how often do you record? We're kind of getting towards the end of the year. If you haven't been doing it, it's okay. We kind of go in September, October, we sort of go through a little exercise about how often you should keep your records, at least once a week. By the time a whole week is passed, you've forgotten the details that you've done. So Sunday dinner, sit down, fill out everything you've done, 4-H and outside 4-H, and do that at least once a week. However you've been keeping them is going to be perfect for this year. We're going to make it work. As you go through completing your record book, you'll see things that you want to do better next year. So you can keep it online, you can keep a calendar, index cards, old school Big Chief tablet, however is easy in your house for you to keep up with. That's the best way to keep your notes. And if you didn't keep notes, this is what we're going to do right now. Calendars, receipts, check register, your 4-H newsletters. If you've been keeping pictures and notes in your calendar on your smartphone, club agendas, your awards and certificates, web pages, post-it notes, computer documents, project meeting notes. If you've been journaling, and maybe you can go back to some of your social media that your friends have posted. You were at the same community service project, so maybe they have something there. Anybody else got any additional ideas that I don't have covered? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. So the 4 parts of our record book are the check sheet, the personal information page, our story and photo portfolio is separate document from our report form. Last year we saw a lot of people just roll their story into the report form, and so we wanted this year to make it very clear the story and photo portfolio is completely separate. So the check sheet is pretty easy. You'll fill that out and it goes in the front of the book to be checked off at the county district level. If you're a senior and you're first place at district, you can advance to state. And then the personal information page. You'll fill all of this information out. Now you have 2 parts of your record book complete. So the next, I see a question, raised hand. You want to talk or you want to type it in the chat? Okay. So age divisions are same 4-H age divisions we do for everything else. You will have juniors are 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Intermediates are 6th, 7th, and 8th. And seniors are 9th through 12th grade. Now, I know we do these record books in the summer. This grade is the grade you're in right now. The grade that you're in for the 2020 and 2021 4-H year. So we aren't going to switch grades until we start school next year. So this will be the age division that you're in for this round of record books. We're going to have a lot of discussion about our main project, and I think that this is jargon that those of us that have been doing record books for a long time use, and it may be a little bit confusing. To me, your main project, and especially if it's your 1st or 2nd year, your main project is your strongest, most active project. And that may mean that you have to sit down with however you're keeping your records and look at which project have you done the very most activities in this year. And that's the category that I would submit your record book in for this year. Categories refer to our 4-H record book categories. It's the project area or topic or subject matter that most closely fits your main project. So if you haven't looked at the family guide yet, that will have a list of descriptions for each of those categories. So is main project clear as mud? Okay. Your record book is nothing to be afraid of. I always hear it's too hard, it's too hard, it's too difficult, there's too many of us, there's not enough time. I don't entertain those kinds of arguments very well because I'm the oldest of 4 and we did our record books on a typewriter. Does anyone know what happens when you get to the end of the page on a typewriter and you've run out of space? You get to start the whole page over, all over again. So you have all kinds of word processing software available to you one way or another, and you can cut and paste and shift things around and put pictures in the middle of it, in the middle of your story. So it may seem difficult to you at this time, but it could be worse, I promise. So get in there and get one done. If this is your first year, do the very best that you can, and then Brittany and Megan and your other county agents and I will have something to work from. We can help you from there, but you've got to get something written on the paper first. Okay. So the third section, third part of your record book is this 4-H story and photo portfolio. That big blank is there for you to put the category that you are submitting your record book in. So if you're doing the horse project, It's my 4-H horse story and photo portfolio. If you're doing foods and nutrition, it is my 4-H foods and nutrition story and photo portfolio. So I want you to take a few minutes. Has everybody got their blank sheets of paper out and a pen?
If you don't have a pen and paper, I would suggest to get one. This might help.
The goal for tonight is for you to have the bare bones of a record book when we finish. So a part of doing that is write 2 sentences about each one of these questions. Just 2 short little sentences, and then skip down a little ways and write 2 sentences about the next one. So the first question is information about yourself, your family, and your community. Do you live in downtown Houston? Do you live on the, I don't know if you can live on the banks of the Galveston Bay in Anahuac? Have you got brothers and sisters? So a couple of sentences about yourself and your family and your community. So the next one is, when and why did you join 4-H? Some of you, it's your first year, so that's easy to remember. Write down 1 sentence about why you joined 4-H. Some of us were juniors and seniors in high school, and we may have to think kind of hard to remember why we joined. So the next section is going to be project goals. So here we're going to kind of begin to start thinking about what all projects are we going to put in this record book. The very first project you're going to talk about is the one the category that you're turning it in as. So if we're going to make this our 4-H horse story and photo portfolio, the first project I'm going to talk about is my horse project. Now it says goals. Really what we want you to expand on in this section is, yes, the goals that you set at the beginning of the year, or that you feel like you set at the beginning of the year, but tell us how you got. Did you reach those goals? Did you not reach those goals? What happened? You know, what was an exciting thing that happened in that project? What was something that just was a learning experience that you'll do better the next time? For me, in a foods and nutrition project, it was how mad I was when my brother slammed the door and my cake fell. And how hard I had worked on that cake and what I had to do to try to rectify the situation and basically redo the cake. So those kinds of stories are going to go in that project goal. What was your goal and what did you do to accomplish it, or what did you, how are you going to adjust that goal next year?
Okay, we have a question in the chat. Says,
yes.
So in this section, can they discuss goals and then disappointment when they couldn't have some of the contests because of COVID?
Yes, but then I would also look at some of the positive things that came what were you able to do that you might not have been able to do otherwise? We couldn't do the contest, but, one of my little girls, last year when the show was canceled, she took her pigs to the yard at the nursing home and ran him around to all the windows. So we weren't able to do the actual contest, but what kind of, are you still doing your project meetings? Did you get to compete at district this year? So yes, you'll want to discuss other things she did with her foods nutrition project. One other thing I saw today that was a good description of goals is your goals are things that you are in control of. So you're going to pick a SMART goal. A SMART goal is it's measurable, attainable relative to the project, but it's also, you have control over what learning experiences you get. You don't have control over the judge's opinion of your project, whatever contest that might be. So look at your project goals as things that you have control over, experiences you can control, and competing against yourself, for lack of a better description. So we've hit on project goals pretty good. The next section is actually two things crammed together. They want to know, what have you done as a leader to make the 4-H program stronger? So that's leadership. And then, what have you done in your community service activities? So I would break that out into two separate sections. Tell me about your leadership. What have you done to make 4-H better? And your community service, what have you done to make an outside organization better? So write a couple of sentences about your leadership and your community service activities. Okay, and that last question is how being a 4-H member has helped you set goals and develop new interests. And then for those of you that are probably 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, has 4-H influenced your future plans or goals? So once you've written a couple of sentences about all of these, you have a really good outline and a really good start to your 4-H story and photo portfolio. I'm sure that most of you could have kept right on writing about some of those. This is where you're going to put, like we talked about, it's a narrative. And this is where you're going to put how you felt, how you felt, all of the details and kind of fleshing it out. An English paper with facts. Some of the bigger, older 4-H members will understand that. Had a long conversation with a senior 4-H member, and the light bulb came on, and she said, "Oh, you mean an English paper with facts?" Yes, this is a narrative of your 4-H career. It is your whole 4-H story. the blood and guts of your experiences. Give us the details. Tell us how you felt. You do want to write this, set it aside, work on your form, and then come back and think about an interest-catching introduction. Hi, my name is Susie Q is a great way to get words on the paper and a great way to get started. But once we get through our story, let's go back to that and see where our story went and think of a way to grab that judge's attention. So my brother did his in gardening and horticulture, and we planted an acre of tomatoes one year. And that happened to be the year that the prices for tomatoes just plummeted, and it wasn't worth the time and effort to even go in the field and pick them, because it would have cost us more to pick them than we would have gotten. So he started off his 4-H record book with, imagine 2,000 tomato plants rotting in the sun and the smell of the, acid tomato smell of the rotting tomatoes. So that kind of made those judges want to get into it and read the rest and see what in the world he was talking about. Use creative writing techniques. So this whole record book is not Mama and Daddy sending Junior to his room to do the record book on his own. It is not Mama and Daddy sending Junior to his room for them to work on the record book themselves. This is a family opportunity. It is family bonding time. So creative writing techniques include reading the story out loud to each other. When you read it out loud, your brain cannot autocorrect the way you intended it for it to sound. You have to read it the way it is on the paper, and someone else is listening to you and can hear some of the sentence structure that doesn't work, or the words don't go together just right, or it's confusing. So reading it out loud to each other will help you improve that story in the long run. Are there any questions about the story part? Everybody's gone to sleep, or I'm doing a really good job?
So I want to clarify. So they first do the 4-H story and photo portfolio piece where they answer those, what is it, 4 or 5 little bullets, and then they go back to the story. I guess I'm trying to get the flow in my mind for this part.
Right. This is all the story. You're going to do this in Word or Google Doc or whatever word processing software you're comfortable with. This is completely separate from the form.
Right. So, I guess where I'm struggling is, so all of these goals and how it helps you become a better leader has to still fit into this creative writing narrative.
This is all a narrative story that you're going to expand on.
Okay.
And these will be roughly in paragraphs, but the older that you get and the more experience your member has, the longer these paragraphs are going to be.
And the ours more are very long, and they're very, I don't think we've hit the creative part yet. Ours are very factual and like, this is what we've done and this is what we've done. And I just don't think we've hit that creative part. we've got like, here's the heading about this section, and here's the heading about this section, and then here's the last year.
So,
and I don't think we've hit here's the summative experience of their 4-H career. Because at this point, we've got, one of them's got 4 years, the other one's got 3. We haven't hit that summative piece yet. So I think I'm missing that, or we are missing that from this component.
So one of the things that we struggle with when we're judging record books is reading stories that are just a paragraph form of all the bullets you put in the form. Or B, someone taking their story and putting it directly into the form. So to me, the difference is, and let's get in, we'll get to the form in a few minutes. This story is you fleshing out your 4-H career. Pick some big, huge, significant thing that happened this year and tell us in detail about it. Maybe one of your learning experiences was, driving to Kentucky and touring a stud farm. Oh my goodness, what a huge experience. Tell us all about that. How did it feel? What was it like? Were you ready to choke your brother on the way there because he kept, snapping his pen on the window? Give us those kinds of details, flesh it out, and give us that story. The same thing, pick one community service project that had a huge impact on you this year and tell us all about, why was this such a big deal to you? How did you feel about it? What was it like when you, handed out the help giving bags to the homeless? What, how did you feel helping those people? What did you experience from it? This is where you get to do all that mushy, feel-good kinds of stuff is in your story. You're going to flesh it all out, tell us your whole story. When we get into the form, you're going to want those experiences to stand out, and you're just going to give us the skeleton. There's not any in concrete, here's how it has to be, but the books that I consistently see do well over time are the ones that are able to emphasize their learning experiences in the form in a format that makes them pop out to the judges. Because they've read this story, they've read all this narrative, they've picked out some of those things from the narrative. So then when they get to the form, we want it to be that cut and dried, give me the bare bones so I get an idea of, what all you've done and how you've done it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when I'm talking with the judges, when we're judging them for state and district, when you really, when you were saying that you had that story, the judges love when you bring that emotion to that story, because as she said, when we get to the sections, it's all about the facts, cut and dry, bullets, this is what I did. But that story is when you really can, tie into your passion and that emotion of your 4-H experience. And when the judges experience that emotion with you, you actually get rated higher.
And I would caution, like, if it was a negative experience, I would find the lesson in it somehow. What are you going to do different to keep that negative experience from happening again? Or what lesson did you get from it? So, like I said, like we talked about a while ago, COVID ended the county fair last year. So, you know, she took her pigs to the nursing home and did a community service project with it. What kind of silver lining can we find out of the rough experiences, and how did you bounce back from it? Okay, anything else about this narrative part of the story? I'm going to go through the photo part pretty quick.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You'll have to excuse me because we just left soccer practice, so no, I don't have papers in front of me while I'm driving.
That's fine.
So my 12-year-old has been in, and my 10-year-old have been in 4-H since they were Clover kids at 4 and 5.
Right.
When it talks about your Clover kids, your 4-H career, are we only touching based on their project or their program is horses? So are we only talking about the horses we've done and things that we've done with the equine, or are we talking about everything we've done not everything, but, touching base on all the experiences we've had since Clover Kids?
So we're going to start with their first year as a 4-H member after their Clover Kid career. And we're going to talk about, and we'll get deeper into the project discussion in a minute, but all of the projects that you're doing as a 4-H member.
Okay.
So this is a story and photo portfolio. You want action photos. You want them clear with good lighting. Sometimes that's hard to do. The captions are optional. If you are really good at Word and you can put the pictures exactly where you want them, and you talk about having to assist the cow and having her calf, and you have a picture of that assist, put it right next to that, and you're good to go. If you're like I am and I hate Word, I can't make the pictures go where I want them to, I might put all of my pictures at the back. And if I do that, I'm probably going to put captions with them. If I'm going to use captions, I am going to make them count. Don't tell me what I can see in the picture. Tell me what I can't see. So, for example, here is a picture of I'm making hair bows at San Antonio. Okay, I can kind of sort of see what that is. But if we said that I'm providing an arts and crafts activity for visitors to the San Antonio Livestock Show, and that's a great way to promote 4-H, then I'm telling what's behind the story. I'm telling you something you can't see in the picture. Not a real clear picture, so probably not one I'm going to use in my record book. But I can see that you're clipping the pig. Use every space in this book to your advantage. So let's tell them what I learned while I was clipping my pig. That I have to stand him on a thick mat so it prevents injuries. Ear tagging. I can see that you're learning how to ear tag a goat. What else did you learn in this process? I've got to make sure that it stays clean so it doesn't get infected. So those are examples. Let's see, what did I do on the sewing? That I've got to have the thread tension correctly. So tell me something that I can't see in the picture. If you're going to use captions, tell me a detail that I can't readily see in that photo. I don't know. So the page limits and all of that are listed on page 5 in the family guide on the record book summary. That'll help you figure out which age divisions can do what size pages. The text needs to be double spaced. Needs to be a minimum of 10-point or equivalent font size. So 10-point Times New Romans is not the same size as 10-point Arial. So figure out which one looks larger and use that. Like we said a while ago, photos can be through the story or they can be grouped. There are minimums listed on the narrative and the pictures in the family guide. And then for those of us that have been doing them for a while, oh, sorry. Using that roller makes them fly through there, doesn't it? The photography category does not have extra photos anymore. We used to put a whole lot of extra pictures in there to give examples of the skills that we were learning in photography, and we no longer are doing that. Any questions about photos? This is another thing that is so easy anymore because everybody is snapping all kinds of photos on their phones. Used to, we had to go print them out and we would get double prints so that we could share them with our friends. Buddy up. Visit with the other families that went to that community service project. Maybe one of those moms got pictures of you and maybe your mom got pictures of their kids and you can share pictures. I used to tell people to keep one of those throwaway cameras in the truck, and that's just not even in use anymore. So the current forms, it is one form for all age divisions. Juniors, you're only going to have up to 3 years because you're only a junior for 3 years. And then you're going to do up to 4 projects in section 1. And we're not going to put in the old forms anymore. If any of you remember, it's been 3 or 4 years now since we changed back. But we used to have 1 form per year, and we're not doing that anymore. So how are we going to manage the form? We talked about this a little bit while ago. Summarize your activities. So if you don't have space, you can summarize that you went to 6 project meetings at the club level and you learned XYZ. If it's, your first or second year and you have plenty of space, put everything in there you can think of. This is going to be a skeleton. I told someone one year bare bones. It is not bare bones. You do want to leave a little bit of meat on the bone just because you want to give them enough information about what you did that they can tell what it is and what you learned from it. If you're running out of space, select your high quality activities. Things that you did outside of your home, things you did outside of your club. If you did stuff at the county and district level, those are things to prioritize if you're running out of space. And then this record book is all about growth. We want to see how much you've grown. Growth doesn't mean I had 1 rabbit last year. I've got 2 rabbits this year. I'm going to have 3 rabbits next year. If we're doing steers, that's kind of a difficult thing to do. We wouldn't any of us get very far with that. What they want to see about growth is that you are getting outside your comfort zone. You're doing new things. You're doing the same things at different levels. You're trying new activities. You're trying new community service projects. You're not doing the same thing every year. You're trying new stuff. So that's a piece of what growth means. So the first page of your form is this section 1, project experiences. I want each of you on either on your form or on your blank sheet of paper, write up to 4 of your projects and leave some space in between them. What kind of projects have we got going? I know we have a horse. What else have we got? Megan, have you got a beef project in your group?
I have a pig and a food nutrition.
Public speaking, food nutrition, leadership. Oh, that's a fun one. Go ahead, Kara. Okay. So write down a couple of things you did in those projects. Did you do project meetings? Did you do some, foods and nutrition? Did you go to the grocery store and compare nutritional value of two different items or two different brands of the same item? Did you talk to the man behind the meat counter about the cuts of beef? Horse, health, swine, food, nutrition. Let's see, horse projects. Have you done any clinics this year? I know we're just barely getting back into doing, doing live things. Did you take him to the vet and talk to the vet about what kind of, whatever they were doing to help you with on the horse? Did he get his Coggins this year? Did you learn what Coggins means and why they have to have it? So those are project experiences. Tell us what you did to learn something new. What new thing did you learn? And I'm old school, so I usually tell them if I did it at the county level, the district level, the state level. That kind of gives them an idea of, are you getting out of your comfort zone? How many of you went to buy a livestock project this year and toured the facility where you bought it, the breeder? Did you interview the breeder about what kind of health practices he has, about what kind of shots your animal has? Those are all learning experiences. There's this little piece in here about learning experiences gained in other organizations but applicable to the 4-H project. So I have one that is doing theater arts. I don't have a theater arts project in my county. We don't provide those project meetings. So she goes to, is it Christian Youth Theater? And that's where she gains the skill in theater art. That's where she learns the skill of theater art. So those experiences would go in this section as her project. Shooting sports, excellent. How many practices, how many hours did you practice? How did you improve? How many targets have you shot? All of those kinds of numbers can go in this section. Individually directed projects and learning experiences are also acceptable. So I'm going to go through this form a little bit out of order, only because I have it put together based on how you format the sections. So section 1 is your main project and up to 3 more projects on this page. Section 4 is anything you have over 4 projects, or if you only have 2 or 3 strong ones, then this is a place where we look for independent projects that we may be doing at home that we didn't realize we're doing. Do you have a family garden? Do you help grandma garden? Do you have a laying hen? You know, a set of laying hens and you're raising eggs? Do you have a horse at home, but you're not active in the 4-H horse project? Do you have a pet at home? So you have a companion animal project. These projects don't have to fit in one of the record book categories. And these other projects can definitely be self-directed projects. That's what we're going to put in this section. Anything else that I haven't listed that you might think is a self-directed or wonder if is a self-directed?
I know for mine, everyone that's in Harris County, I have mini contests every month, and then we have project explorations every month. And if you didn't make it a full project, then that would go under here for other projects.
Perfect. Oh, what do they call it now? Fashion and interior design. If you have helped mom redecorate the living room, or you've been decluttering your house in this time, that would be a housing and home environment. I'm sorry, they changed it on me. Fashion and interior design. So if you've been decluttering your closets and straightening up stuff, that would be another 4-H project. Yes, taking care of their own laundry. They are learning. That one goes under fashion and interior design also, because they're learning those clothing and textile type skills of, you know, put whites with whites, don't throw the red t-shirt in with the white underwear. You don't wash silks, you know, what things are dry clean. So they're learning all of those things. Those would be learning experiences. Perfect. If you aren't doing foods and nutrition, but you're helping mom and dad with cooking meals for the family and meal planning and shopping, all of that goes into foods and nutrition also. Okay. Here's what we were talking about a while ago, paragraphs versus bullets. So these 3 sections, your 2 project sections and your outside of 4-H section, are blank pages. And this is where we see people begin to get really narrative. So here's one example of a narrative in section 1, project activities. I'll let you glance through that real quick. See if you can pick out the big stuff. You can see there's lots of extra words. It's more of a paragraph. What do you think about this as a bullet? Is it a little easier to pick out some of those big things? So the family guide does not have these little abbreviations in this section. The CL, CON, CL. CL is club. I'm getting to the table. Hang on a second. CO is county. Those abbreviation titles are in the leadership and the leadership section. Like I said, I usually include them in this section because that tells the judges that you're doing something bigger and badder and new each year. Something different. So here's an example of a table. Once we get to our 5th and 6th year in a really active project, we're not going to have room to list it this way. We're not going to have room to be able to tell them all this stuff. So then we summarize it and skeletonize it even more. This is that exact same information. It's just put in a different format. These column titles are totally based on whatever project it is. So if you're doing photography, you might have, instead of hours worked, maybe it's photo shoots. You know, how many times did you go out and focus on taking photos? You're not going to have a profit and loss, but you may have contest numbers that you've entered. So those are 3 examples of formatting. You need to pick the best format, and maybe it's not one of these 3, so that it emphasizes your experience well. So each one of us has a different level of experience, a different kind of experience, and we want that to stand out as best as we can. So we're going to use whatever format emphasizes that to its best advantage. So here's a couple of examples of how to structure that in the big picture thing. You may want to put project first and then year, like on the left. Put the year and then the projects, or put the project and then the years. I will, if you're adding a new project each year, then this might show that to an advantage that you're doing something new. If you're growing within those projects, then this format may be more effective in emphasizing your experience. I guess I should have gone in and changed the years, sorry. You are going to put the most current year first and work back from there. We already had this discussion. Are there any questions about section 1 or section 4 of your record book?
So all these people that are attending this training, could they put this in their record book, and where would they, what section would they put it in?
So I would put it in whatever your main project is. The next step you can take is, if you go home or go back to your club and teach them how to do it, then you're going to have a leadership thing that we can talk about on the next few pages. Does that sound about right?
Yes, I wanted everyone to know that they could use this in their record book. So
yes. This definitely goes in your record book, and you can take it to the next step and make it a leadership by convincing somebody else to do one. Okay. I told you I was going to skip around a little bit because of the way you format things. This is your non-4-H activities. So everything else outside of 4-H, we're going to record the same information that we're recording with 4-H. our activities, our leadership, and our community service. So you can organize that in a couple of different ways too. You can do it by organization. So I am in the Junior Beefmaster Association, and I went to 6 of their shows, and I'm an officer with their board, and we did a community service project collecting toys for tots. So that's all going to be here. Now, if I went to a camp that the Junior Beefmaster Association offered, and I learned a skill at that camp, then I'm going to list that camp under my beef project. But the leadership officer position that I had in the Junior Beefmaster Association, I have to list here. It's not going to go in my 4-H leadership. Does that make sense? And you put it out on your page and you see what it looks like. It may make more sense to do it by organization, or it may make more sense to do it as the activities, as the leadership, and as the community service as breakouts first. You see what looks best with your activity. Any questions about non-4-H? Okay, if you go to section 6, write in the organizations that you're in outside of 4-H. If you don't have the form printed out, just write section 6 non-4-H at the top of the page and list the organizations that you're in outside of 4-H. Band, football, soccer, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. Bluebirds, is that right? American Heritage Girls. I can't remember. YMCA. Boys and Girls Clubs. Church. So any of those kinds of things. Is there something you're doing that I didn't list?
Student council.
Definitely student council. I'm sure there's something else. Oh, DAR and CAR. Daughters of the American Revolution, Children of the American Revolution. Oh, Bluebonnet, National Honor Society, Cotillion, Civil Air Patrol. Okay, I'm out of them. Did I miss anything? All right. So we've hit on this a little bit before. Make it emphasize your experiences. So whatever structure or format, I would focus on bullets, but after that, whatever fits your experiences. If you are a first or second year member and you have lots of space to tell us in detail what you learned, go for it. If you're a senior 4-H member and you're running out of space, you're going to have to cut things out and summarize. Don't say as many words about something, just give us the highlights. Leadership. On your leadership page, elected, appointed, promotional, volunteer. This page in leadership are the places that you are acting as a leader. If you are doing leadership as a project also, the skills that you learned to be a leader and the places that you went to learn those skills are going to be listed under your project. The place where you actually taught and behaved as a leader are going to go on this page. And then we have to figure out what's the difference between leadership and community service. So leadership are things that helped or benefited the 4-H program. So your fundraising activities, your coming early or staying late to help set up or tear down the room, clean up, leading the Pledge of Allegiance at the club meeting. All of those things are leadership. And that page looks like this. Under that section, and here's that CLCOD to tell you what level it is. And then responsibilities, duties, and accomplishments. Use numbers to give the judge a picture of what you have accomplished. So I'm the club secretary. I kept the minutes of the meetings and read the minutes of the meetings at 8 club meetings. And our club has 54 people in it. So we're going to use numbers to tell the judge what size. If I wore my 4-H shirt to school as promotional leadership, I'm going to put in here, I wore it to school 15 days and 25 people. I talked to 25 people about the 4-H program and invited them to my club meeting. So give the details that you can give. Here's a blown up of that page. A lot of times we talk about assisting, and I'm just as bad about it when I do my reports. Assisting isn't necessarily a leadership term. So think of the one task that you did at that event where you made that event happen. So instead of me assisting with the club meeting, it was my responsibility. I took care of registration. And I sat at the desk and I signed everybody in. Helping clean up after the meeting. I picked up chairs and tables to clean up after the meeting. So these are action words that we're going to use. Any questions about leadership? For those of you that have been doing it for a while, what are some examples of leadership that you put in yours? I see Kara's typing. Anybody else? Coaching friends in their projects, record books, and hobbies. So what we said a while ago, every one of you can have leadership if you go home, visit with your club manager, and invite people to come learn about record books. And teach the kids in your club about record books. Lots of people are afraid of competition. For me, competition makes your book stronger because you're having to work harder at it. Here's some examples. Notice that there's numbers in these examples. Distributed flyers for the 4-H clubs. So how many flyers did you distribute? Well, how many places did you put it? Helping people how to do stuff. Officer roles and what you did. Yes, officer roles are good. That goes in here. That's elected. But if you're in a club of 50 or 60 people, you may never have a chance to be elected to an office. The biggest takeaway from this is there's a lot of other leadership opportunities out there, and you can create some of those even though you're not elected to an office. So you may have to work at it. You may have to create some of your own, but you can get leadership. Committees are a wonderful leadership opportunity. So as we move into community service, on community service, ambassador roles and visiting schools and libraries. Oh, wow. That's a big one. On community service, they want to know if you did it yourself, if you did it as a member of the club, or if you gave primary leadership. So this is where the question about leadership comes into play. I led this community service project, so that goes in leadership, but it does not. If it's a project or an activity that you led that helps an organization outside of 4-H, then it goes under community service as a primary leadership. So here's what the top of that section looks like. Notice this importance and impact. What they really want to know, an impact, is how much, how many hours, how many people, how much food did you collect? So give us numbers here also to help the judge see what size it is. So here's some examples of that. It is, so the difference in those three, yourself, member, and primary leadership, to me, it's explained. The example I use is so I go clean out my closet and I take the clothes I'm not wearing anymore to Goodwill. That is a project that I did myself. My club announced that they were collecting clothes for Goodwill. So all those clothes I cleaned out of the closet, I brought to the club. So now I participated as a member of that community service project. Maybe I have a real passion for Goodwill. So I go to the club manager and I ask the manager if I can announce a community service project to collect clothes for Goodwill. Now I am the primary leader of that community service project. So those are the 3 pieces you need. The older you get, the more P's you need to look at. That's growth in this area. Is new projects and going from doing things yourself and doing things as a member to beginning to lead things. Numbers, numbers, numbers. Show them the impact. Show them your accomplishments by giving them the numbers of what you did, how you did it. Any questions about leadership or community service? Did everybody write down at least one leadership thing you have and at least one community service on those pages? Okay, so the other big question that we get is it 4-H or is it non-4-H? In leadership and in community service. So those 2 things are on separate pages. We saw that a while ago. There's a whole page for non-4-H. If you did the activity as a 4-H member, then it is 4-H. If you do the activity as a member of another organization, then it's non-4-H. If, you know, every Sunday you go and sit in the nursery during church and help in the nursery, that's community service, but that's outside 4-H community service. You're a member of that church and you're supporting that church. If I go do Adopt a Spot with my Girl Scouts, that goes in non-4-H. Because I'm representing, I'm helping, I'm doing that activity with the Girl Scouts. So it counts, but it's going to go in the non-4-H page. And you're going to write your non-4-H leadership and community service the same way you write your leadership and community service for 4-H. Put the numbers in there. Tell us how many, how much, what kind. Give us those details. Any questions on this section? Non-4-H versus 4-H. Okay, recognition and awards, that's pretty self-explanatory. College and career exploration. Anybody that went to Big Time last weekend has toured a college campus. If your club has speakers come, do you talk about what kind of education do I need to get this job? How much schooling do I have to have? What types of, you know, what is the salary range for this job? Those are career and college exploration kinds of things. Interviews with professionals that you do business with, shadowing, those that went to State Roundup a couple of years ago, you know, they had the whole college section of the vendor booths. If you stopped and visited with any of them, that fits. Juniors, sophomores and juniors that are getting all kinds of mail from 900 different colleges. If you go look them up and check it out, then that counts. Just a heads up, these record books are judged in June at your county level and in July at the district level. Those judges are moms, dads, agents, program assistants, interns. Not all of them are completely experienced with this. They're not all experts. So it's not any different than a judge in the show ring or your comments on your foods and nutrition. take the helpful comments and discard the uninformed negative comments. If you have a question about your comment, visit with your county agent. They can help you try to interpret that, and they can tell you if it's just a unwarranted comment that shouldn't have been in there. Okay, I'm going to leave the last 5 minutes for questions, comments, concerns. I'll stay later if you want, if we can. Well, let us go after 7:30.
Yes, it will.
So, questions, comments, concerns. Are we ready to do a record book? Did I just rehash everything you learned in your first session?
No, I think you covered a lot more. We had, our first session just covered the story.
Was this helpful?
Yes.
Excellent.
Says, thank you. After 20 years of record books, I've learned some new things.
That's exciting. I'm glad to hear that, Sandra.
Then we have a comment. Is there a guide all about record books? If so, where it can be found?
Yes.
Yes, Ariel, there is.
I think I took that down. Let me pull that up and share it with you. Oh, I'm so excited. There's now actually, let me show you how I got here. Okay, so this is texas4h.tamu.edu. It's their homepage. And now you can go to youth, and there's actually a record book button. It hasn't been there for a very long time. So when you click on that, you can, there's the family guide. Don't know what PowerPoint. Oh, that's the state PowerPoint. So list of categories. And then here is the record book form in Word. And if you haven't checked it out, there is an online record keeping system called Z Suite. And here's a recorded training on that you can look at. Oh, guess what? We don't have to send out the old one. There's the link to all of the videos that I did last year. So each of the sections and the 1 hour things that we did. So, Brittany, I don't have to send it to you. It's already here.
Do you know? I'm sorry. Do you know if the Z Suite has updated their ability to do the record book stories?
I do not know. The last conversation I had was they were working on it. I wouldn't get real deep in it before I decided to do it on an external word processing program. Like, go check it out and see if you can do the pictures the way you're supposed to be able to do the pictures. And
yes,
if not, for that one piece, I might go to something else. If it's your first year, I think it would be, I think it would be really beneficial to get into the Z Suite. It has it set up where you can plug stuff in as you do it. And and then do modifications at the end, and it prints it out in the record book form. And it looks extremely promising. I have not used it. You are welcome. I enjoy talking about record books. They're a real passion for me because I see so much benefit come out of them. Down the road, you're going to have a grand use for this document if you keep up with it. And like I said, you're getting an annual review on how you compare to your peers. So when you get ready to do that Texas 4-H Foundation Opportunity Scholarship application, it's pretty much plug and play, and you'll have a good idea of where you set, at least on the 4-H part of it. There's not any way for us to know what those other 3 sections, what we're competing with on those other 3 sections of that scholarship application. But at least with an annual review of this record book, you know where you're going to stand on the 4-H side of it.
Are there any other questions?
And yes, Sandra, it's extremely beneficial for all scholarships. I have judged a non-4-H scholarship before and recognized some of the names of the kids that had applied, and it was night and day difference in what their application looked like compared to people that I did not know had done record books. It was a huge, significant difference in their capabilities in the written communication.
So am I to understand that because your recordings from last year are online, that you're not going to send out a copy of tonight's recording?
Oh,
Go
ahead.
I'll still send out this recording, and then I'll send the link to find those recordings. So you'll still have this recording.
Okay, great. Because there was a lot of examples given, and I don't know if they're in the ones from last year or not. Thanks.
Thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to share my passion.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for presenting to us today. And I love record books as well. So if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out. She has a great resource. And then, of course, if you have any other questions, I'm here as well. So I thank y'all for joining us tonight, and I'll send out the recording tomorrow. So thank you all.
Thanks again.
Woo.